Welcome to Your Mind is Trying to Kill You podcast. Join your host, Alexandros and co-host Vincent Byrne as they walk you through the deepest recesses of the mind and how it operates. They discuss all the reasons why our minds persistently get in the way of our evolution, growth, and our success. But crucially, they also teach you what you can do to change your destiny. And now, here's your host, Alexandros.
Welcome to the 34th. We are going up in the digits, my brother.
We are.
34th episode of the Your Mind is Trying to Kill You podcast. I'm your host, Alexandros Megas.
And I'm your co-host, Vincent Byrne.
And today I got inspired by someone who accused me of being mean and having no empathy to talk about that topic, empathy, with my friend Vincent here. What do you think, Vincent? Is that a good one?
I can't believe that. Can't believe they said that to you.
I know, mean? Like,
mean?
It makes no sense.
Yeah.
All right, so, since we're going to talk about empathy, I think that we should first properly define what empathy is, right? So we're going to run to Miriam. She's such a cool chick. She says, the empathy is the action of understanding, being aware of, being sensitive to, and vicariously experiencing the feelings, thoughts, and experience of another, of either the past or present, without having the feelings, thoughts, and experience fully communicated in an objectively explicit manner. Whatever that means. What does that mean? Okay. Empathy. What is it in your view?
Well, my go-to definition wouldn't have been as extensive as that, but it would have been around the idea of understanding where the other person is coming from, understanding their point of view, and also, I think, making it a point of trying to understand their point of view, because it's one thing thinking that you know, but it's another thing actually knowing. And often, in order to do that, you need to be curious, ask questions, and show a sensitivity around that, rather than just writing in with your impression and the usual thing, offer them advice. Which of course nobody wants. So that would be my sense. It's not just having the understanding, but it's the desire to understand as well.
But there's a couple of questions here actually that are coming up with me, or for me rather. Can we ever understand, fully, what the other person is going through? And what does it even mean to understand? What does it mean if I understand what you're going through? Let's say you went through a horrible experience. Let's say, God forbid, someone, let's not even hypothetically assume that someone is either of us, but someone loses a child, and then what would be the proper way of being empathetic to that person? Would you put yourself in their place, hypothetically try to imagine what that would be like? Or would you assume that, this is one of the most horrible things that can happen to anyone, and so how do you become empathetic to that? Because being empathetic means that, I guess, you have an understanding, you have a perspective of what this is about, how horrible it is. You get the perspective, but then at the same time, you don't It's like someone is in the hole. You don't jump in the hole with them. You hopefully extend your hand to pull them out, or help them help themselves be pulled out. But my perspective, and specifically because we're all about the mind here, is that perhaps there's no way to really understand. And because understanding logically, if yeah, you understand, oh, that's a horrible thing. You lost your job. Oh my God, that's horrible. Because I'm thinking, oh, what would happen to me if I lost, my ability to provide for my family? And it's a horrible thought. But the ability to put yourself in that situation means that you can really visualize, you can really imagine yourself being there, and in some kind of magical sense, I guess, get there in your mind, and see what that feels like, and then decide what it is that you would do instead. See, because that's where it really counts, I guess. When someone is in a horrible place, and you manage to put yourself in a similar position, mentally and emotionally, and you come up with an idea. Hey, I think that lamenting is good, and there is a place for it and a time for it. But how about doing something? How about being in action in any way? And of course, the other person could be, as it happened with me, how can you be so insensitive?
It doesn't mean you weren't empathic, though. And I think that's, I mean, that's why my thing is, and I do get your point about the fact that how can we truly understand what someone is going through? Because I think a lot of our understanding comes from our own point of reference, our own points of reference. So if you've ever lost a job and somebody lost a job, you bring yourself back potentially to what that felt like. So therefore, it's easy to see what that might look like as a general concept. But you don't necessarily know whether the person on losing their job were humiliated by their boss and, accused of doing something that they didn't do, or you don't know any of the context really. But I think that's why I think it's more about seeking to understand and giving the person the opportunity to almost to process and explain what's going on. And that is probably of greater value than you putting yourself into their position and using your imagination to actually come up with some idea or some suggestion for them. So, and I think there's also another side to it as well. I mean, it can be when someone is down or has had some kind of tragedy, whatever. But it can also be on the other side. I mean, empathy. I once did a series of sessions. I think it was called The Journey. It was a book which was written by a lady called Brandon Bays, and I was going through some stuff at the time, and the process involved, there were several aspects to it, but one of the aspects related to if you had, in my case, there was a couple of individuals who'd been particularly unpleasant to me when I was growing up, and having gone through a kind of a hypnotic kind of state, etc., to come up with these people and these issues being at the core of what I was going through at the time. The ending process was this concept of the campfire, and the campfire was intended for you to be on one side, and you visualized having the other people on the other side, and you visualized yourself having the conversation with them, asking them why they did what they did. And then as part of it, it was almost like you got up and ran around the other side and you answered for them as to why you thought it was that they did what they did. But you were speaking as if it was them. And you had this back and forth dialogue going on, and ultimately arriving at, in my head, a kind of a settlement of the issue, because I felt that there was I got a greater insight by just imagining what the person was going through at the time that they were unpleasant to me. So so in that case, it was being used as a way of making bringing peace to a situation for me, as much as it was like the situation you talk about where someone is down and you're trying to empathize with them in order to understand what's going on and help them. So I think there's a number of levels and a number of situations where it's relevant.
Yeah, I agree with what you mentioned. Is actually, I think we talked about, perhaps I think we have in the past, that situation that you mentioned, that technique in hypnotic terms is called parts therapy.
Okay.
And you can actually use it not only for somebody else, like another person, you can use it to converse with different parts of yourself. And
Yes.
that has a lot of benefits when it comes to trying to actually physically heal yourself. Like you can talk to a cancer,
Yeah.
and things like that. It's pretty fascinating.
And that was actually the initial part of it was involved a situation where you imagine going into your body and coming up against some blockage or some issue or some pain and speaking to it and hearing what it had to say. So that was actually something that was an initial phase of it. So that was closer to what I would have understood parts therapy to be. I wouldn't have understood it to be the campfire process as well. But it's interesting.
Right. So I agree with you when you say that the place of empathy that you put yourself in was ultimately not for these people, but it was for you. It was because you needed to reframe the event or the events that caused you pain, and in doing so, free yourself of that pain in the
Yeah.
process, hopefully. But when it comes to somebody else, let's say with a loved one or a friend that is going through something that is very uncomfortable or painful, is there a benefit even in being empathetic? Because what could be the benefit of understanding where the person is, even if you don't commiserate with them? What could be the benefit of understanding where they are? The benefit to them? Do we help them? I mean, if someone is down, let's actually we can either use the process of an ayahuasca ceremony, for example, which, as we've mentioned, in many cases is a very uncomfortable process, or training, the martial art. Like when I train Aikido, and of course, I have to go through painful and uncomfortable and exhausting parts in there. So we know that the mind, and by the mind, once again, we're referring to the subconscious mind, that is who provides the power, who provides the juice, who provides the fuel for anything that we need to do. So that mind is also a child, and it's also very lazy and doesn't feel like doing the work if it doesn't think it's absolutely necessary to do the work. Otherwise, the whole organism is being threatened with extinction or, massive pain or hurt, incapacitation, whatever. What that means is when I fall down because I'm sparring during Aikido, and I feel like, oh, I need a moment to catch my breath. Just give me this. And of course, depending on who the instructor might be, they know that in some way you're bullshitting. I mean, you're not necessarily bullshitting consciously, but you're bullshitting subconsciously because you want to step away from having to do the work. And so by inciting the reasons that, oh my, I'm gonna have a heart attack. Oh my God, please, just give me a minute. So by doing that, right, you put up all the theatrics and all the excuses the subconscious mind can provide in order to sufficiently be left alone. Because, the other person's like, oh shit, I say, are you okay? I didn't mean to, bring it to that level of exhaustion or hurt you. Are you hurt? So when it comes to growth, because we are talking about growth here, every time, this is our goal. Finding ways to grow and to become more powerful, to become more wise, more knowledgeable, more skillful, happier, and more content, more purposeful. So does it serve you? Like if let's say you're attending an ayahuasca ceremony with me, and you're in a very uncomfortable place, and you're physically uncomfortable, and you're also, of course, emotionally uncomfortable, because now you have been presented, in your face, so to speak, with all the stuff that has been a major trauma for you in the past, and you didn't want to face. And now you are called to face it because you can't avoid it. So now you're like, oh, please help me do this is, I can't, and this is how a lot of people, not a lot of people actually, some people lose their shit during a process like this, because everything that they have to defend, the demon, because this is an exorcism of some sort, right? So the demon will put up. Have you seen? Oh, you've seen this. You have seen, must have, The Exorcist, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, masterpiece. So here's what happens. If you go in there and you're in the process, like Father Karras is in the process, and he has managed to, shove his boot up the demon's ass, so to speak, at a specific moment, and the demon is uncomfortable, right? So demon's like, oh shit, I gotta do something. Get myself out of this. And so he starts talking to his mother's voice, right? Who is a Greek woman. And she's like, παιδί μου, γιατί, why are you doing this to me, my son? Why do you have to be, what I mean? It appeals to, of course, his emotional, weakness. Because, the demon knows that the guy won't have the strength to be confronted now with something that feels like his mother from the other side, because she died recently after he had whatever, like an argument with her, and he can't forgive himself. So now she's like, trying to appeal to his good natured son. It's like, stop, don't do this. This is really this is hurting me. This is really, what I mean. So this is, as we would call, a trick, and a really good one. So the subconscious mind is filled with those motherfuckers, right? Because it wants to get away from having to do the work. It doesn't like to be challenged. Well, what do you think about that?
Yeah, no, I agree. And I mean, I imagine that if I was being that snowflake in the ayahuasca ceremony, that you would say, no, stick with it, or words to that effect. This is doing you good. All good medicine tastes horrible, and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, I can understand that. But I don't think that people with whom you can be empathic necessarily are doing anything to lull you into that sense of feeling sorry for them. I mean, I think that it really depends on what your intentions are. If your intentions are to teach them something, then they may have a situation like the priest in The Exorcist, or maybe learning something in Aikido, where you've pushed them and they don't think that they can go any further and they want you to let them off the hook. But you know better because you're the teacher. In that way, I think you already have the understanding and you know what you need to do to push them through. So to me, that's actually quite good understanding, i.e. empathy, and therefore how you push them to help them get over their barrier is actually part of their journey. I think that,
Yeah, go ahead.
so I think when someone is in a particular place, if you, I think that for me the difference between empathy and one's normal reaction to someone else's behavior is that if we just take that other person's behavior, whether it's aggressive, whether it's you know, they collapse on the floor in a heap, an emotional heap, how you react to that is really what this is all about, because our natural tendency is to just react to what we see in front of us. So if someone comes at us with anger, we tend to come back with anger, or certainly to defend ourselves. If someone comes at us with emotion, then our tendency is to rush in and do the the sympathetic thing. I think real empathy is not doing either of those. It's stopping yourself and asking what's going on here. And whether you ask it to yourself and then begin to ask the other person, that can change the whole dynamic of what you're faced with. Because someone who's very aggressive towards you can suddenly soften completely, purely by virtue of the fact that you're asking them questions about what's going on for them. And you're trying with curiosity to reach them, I suppose. And that can change a whole situation around. And someone who, I mean, I've had situations in coaching scenarios where people will start to talk and they'll suddenly start to cry. And my initial reaction was, oh my God, I need to get the Kleenex and, start handing them tissues so that they can, I suppose, to some extent, wallow in it. Whereas what I learned laterally was that no, I don't get involved. That actually what they're going through, even though I don't know specifically what they're going through, but what they're going through is a purging of emotion. So why would we want to be rushing in to stop it? Why not let them continue with the process and work through it themselves? So in that case, being empathic is just knowing what's going on
Right.
For them.
And I'm in agreement with you 100%. So the problem is here that most people, I don't know, a lot of people don't.
Well, societal norms are.
Right. Right. Thank you. So the societal norms are that, you're supposed to be that kind of person. And of course, now in this day and age, where everybody is offended, you know what I mean? So you cough, especially if you cough, people get offended. Right. So everyone gets offended that I coughed, no matter what happens, right? Because people feel that being offended is their right, that it makes this is a privilege, you know what I mean? How dare you say this? As if everyone is a keeper of the words, right? And you're supposed to act according to somebody else's accepting or rejecting of the words. Because if you dare to say the words or mention the feelings that someone else is not comfortable with, then you are an asshole. But this is detrimental to a societal growth, and of course to the individual's growth, because you can't go anywhere from that point. This is a a crippling effect. Being offended. And of course, how can you, because this is about, like people say, oh, you can't like dress up like Pocahontas because that's cultural appropriation. Right? So, but then what happens? What happens when you do that? I mean, does it serve a group of people or a certain kind of people, a person, to not push their buttons? Because that's what this is really about.
Yeah.
I mean, does it serve you? If we're together and if I care about your growth, right? Does it serve you if I don't push your buttons? Because I personally, I've always wanted, and the people that are close to me know that I not only am I expecting my buttons to be pushed, I demand it, because this is for me an excuse. This is for me an opportunity to dig deeper into what might be another trap, mental trap for me. And if you are in a mental trap, then you don't want to move. You just stay there. Like this card, this tarot card, it's called the Hangman. There's a bound man upside, hanging upside down. Not very uncomfortable as it doesn't look. But that card, within that card, if you look at the face of the person upside down and bound, it's a very zen, very calm, very serene. Because ultimately, the magic of the Hangman is being able to be bound and find the strength, find the wisdom, find the gift in being able to cope with that and understand that it has to give you gifts. It has beautiful solutions to offer any kind of seemingly horrible situations, right? Any kind of problem is there to provide solutions for things that maybe we don't even know that there could be solutions.
Sure. I mean, I think I don't know where I was reading. I was reading something in the past 24 hours about that very issue, about the fact that, there's learning in everything, in every experience, and that often the less pleasant experiences, we're rushing to get ourselves out of them, and we're rushing to get other people out of them, because seeing someone else who's suffering makes us feel bad, so therefore we just want to fix it, which hence the culture there is around wanting to tell people what to do and give them advice, even when we don't really understand what we're doing. And therefore there's always this rush to take ourselves out of the discomfort, when in fact working our way through the discomfort and coming out the other side is actually the quickest way to get permanently out of the discomfort. Because if we don't allow the person to do that, then, and be there for them and support them, then the chances are that they will suppress it, and maybe a day or two or a week or months later they still haven't processed the situation, and they won't have anyone there to help them in the event that they need to go through it. So there is a cultural thing of wanting to rush in and fix things, which isn't healthy, absolutely. But I think there's a difference between that and being in a situation where someone is, like the ayahuasca situation, where having been through this process yourself multiple times and having witnessed and I suppose facilitated other people going through it, when someone is going through a difficult time in the ceremony, that you know what to do, how to deal with it, and therefore what may come across as being harsh or lacking in empathy or whatever actually is more based on knowledge and experience and guiding someone as to how they need to proceed. So I think that's a distinction that I would make. I think a lot of people misinterpret what the word empathy is. For me, and this again is my relatively recent learning in recent years, is that I would have had empathy in the same category as sympathy. I think people tend to see the two of them pretty much the same, probably because they end with the same letters. Um, and for me, empathy is just about understanding, seeking to understand. Sympathy is about, giving the sympathetic kind of arm around them and supportive and all of that. I think the two are completely different. But I think if you're not giving sympathy, people can often accuse you of not being empathic. And that perhaps is what went on in the situation that you mentioned at the start with your friend. They wanted sympathy, but they said you weren't being empathic. When I think you were just being, you could say, giving tough love, maybe.
Right. And there's, I'm going to mention that example. And it actually was at an ayahuasca gathering. Okay. And there was this lady, and she had, of course, she was going through a process. And then her friend was sitting right next to her. And at some point, she starts, I hear, because, when I'm in my process, usually my eyes are closed, but I'm hyper aware of what's happening around me. And I hear, whisper like, so, and of course, I give it a few minutes because I'm like, well, maybe someone needs to, say quick, or, needs like a tissue or whatever, water. So I let it go, and then it kept on continuing. Like, so I opened my eyes, and I say to the lady, I said to her, look, I think, especially since that was like her first time, I think you might if you're looking for insights in this situation, you're more likely to get them if you're not having a conversation. Now, you can have all the conversations in the world in the morning, but I think now you should allow yourself to go through your process. And she was wounded by this. But ironically, now here's what she told me. It's really nice, nice lady. She meant well, of course, but we talked about it the next day, and she said, well, it's unbelievable because when you said that to me, then what brought this up, which is what she was actually discussing with a friend, what brought this up for me is the fact that I always disappoint everyone. Right? Like, I can never, do it right. I always disappoint someone. And so I guess, in pure reflection of that kind of trait, I guess, that she has, she found in her mind that she disappointed me. But she goes to me back, while in the moment when I said that to her, she goes, "Oh no, I was trying to," because she's trying to kind of like, yeah, you know what I mean, give me an explanation. I'm like, no, look, I don't give a shit. You don't need to explain this to me. I don't care. If you want to talk to your heart's content. I'm just telling you that it doesn't serve you to be in conversation right now, right? It's amazing how we are so deeply conditioned to care so much about what other people think about us that we will step, shoot ourselves on the foot repeatedly because we think that this is, am I being not sensitive enough? Everyone, especially in this society, feels like they have to be sensitive about everyone's needs all the time. And of course, if you do that, you cripple yourself in the process because you lose face of who you are. You have no idea because you can't even reflect, within yourself. That's why people of this kind of, like New Agers, we mentioned, New Agers, my favorite kinds of people. I love them though; they're wonderful. they have this thing where they feel bad when they feel bad. They feel bad when they feel angry. It's like, oh, I'm angry. I shouldn't be angry. You gotta be positive. I gotta be positive. And of course we talked about being positive, and that is not something. That's not absolutely not something that serves you. Not something that helps you. Not something that can be a bridge for you to get on the other side of the situation, because you can assess what the hell is going on while you are in this. Because you're thinking about did I say something to insult Vincent? And why would I ever? But that's most people are more concerned about what other people think of them, than what they even think of themselves.
Absolutely. I mean, I had this conversation with someone just today, and the challenges they have in running their business, because they are so caught up with the idea of needing to be liked and needing not to upset other people and to have other people think that they're great. So as a result of it, they don't say no. They end up making decisions which are all about other people's priorities, and their priorities are last. And they end up getting themselves into an emotional, mental mess, all coming from that particular scenario. And the idea of saying no to people doesn't sit easy with them. And the other one that comes up is that when someone says something challenging, because I had this conversation with someone around internet trolls the other evening, and they felt the need to rush in and respond, to get into the ring. So somebody, you put up a video and someone comes in and says, that's a piece of shit, anyone could do that. And then you jump in with a comment like, well, I'd like to see you try, and do you realize how long this took me? And then you end up in this tit for tat situation. You end up in really angry and energy drained, and they've just had fun just taking the piss, and they don't even know you. You don't even know them, but you've got involved in this keyboard warrior session. And all of that comes from the need to be liked and not to be criticized, and all of which draws you into other people's stories and into their individual rings. It's fascinating.
Well, it's funny how actually the ones that are more skillful, the people that use the social media to actually make the most impact for themselves primarily, get traffic and things like that. Many times they will say something outrageous and then have people go lose their shit. It will be like a a stream of like 1,500, comments back and forth. And of course, they never even interfere. You know what I mean? Like the person who authored this, they don't give a shit. They're not gonna.
Yes, they just took the ring out and tossed it in. And off they go.
Because this is the bait,
Yeah.
And of course, this is energetically, that would be a magical attack, because you get, what I mean? It's like, if I can, and we've talked about that so many times before, if I can use a single word to make you lose your shit, then what happens? Then I can manipulate you.
Yeah.
Then I can use your energy, for my benefit, and of course against you. So I'm Aikitoing,
Like a keto.
yeah, you, and you fall for it every single time.
Yeah.
Now, how can we empower the society? And speaking of that, we are at the time of recording. this podcast, we are one day away from the end of the world. And by that, I mean the American elections.
Just the free world, just the free world.
I don't know if you saw, but down in Manhattan, all the stores are like boarding up.
Yeah.
Their their storefronts. People are like, oh shit, it's like, this is it. The apocalypse is coming. So, but to me, it's juicy because I see this as such a major weakness of this society, man. The people are fucked up, brother. There is nothing redeemable about these people. Specifically because, either, I mean, I don't, how I feel about all politicians, right? But specifically, the fact that someone thinks that they are actually being, taken, making good use of their democratic privilege to go there and fuck shit up because they don't agree with whatever it is that happens out there. This is like, going to a football match or like a wrestling match or whatever, and then, because you're whoever it is that you rooted for loses, then you have to go and protest that. So what is the point of actually having a confrontation in the first place? Right? Like, why are we even doing this? Because, I mean, first of all, whatever everyone thinks of the process of the elections, I have to, of course, the cynical motherfucker that I am, stand by George Carlin's brilliant statement that said if the elections could change things, they would be illegal. I mean, wow, look, it makes total sense because I'm sorry for what I'm just about to say because it may hurt people's feelings, but this isn't a democracy. And guess what? There has never been a democracy in this world. And I say that coming from the place and the ancestors that coined the term and the system. There has never been a democracy in this world because democracy really means that the masses rule. But how is that even possible? How is it possible? Someone always rules, and that someone has the power, right? The kings and the queens. And now, of course, because we have been, we know better now. We're so sophisticated. We came up with a way to say, no, wait. There shouldn't be one person or just a group of people ruling the world. No, that's not right. We should take everyone's opinion. Yeah, what do you think? What do you think, Vincent? Oh, what do you think? Maybe, what do you think we should do? But if you found yourself in a situation where you're like out camping, into the wilderness, if you can find that these days, and you are with a team of people, and then something happens, like there's an obstacle, like you are out of power, like the fire is out because there was a rainstorm, and or like there's no gas in the car, or there's a bear. You at that point you have like 10 people over there, and you might go like, okay, so what do you guys think we should do? You, let's take votes. But at that point, first of all, most people's opinion would be deriving from their fear. So everyone losing their shit. They don't know what to do. This is not the point to make a rational decision, right? But it does. This is the nature of the democratic system. People think, and of course the media is like, you have like Trump saying, if Biden gets elected, say bye-bye America, and freedom. The freedom that we have enjoyed, is bye-bye. And then Biden's like, this guy, someone asks him a question about like, his shady doings. And he goes, that's irrelevant. We have to look at what this guy is doing. Look at that guy. Look, if he gets elected, we're all fucked. So everyone, of course, gets in, the media, which, of course, they will make the best out of throwing, fuel in the fire, because that's what they do best, because that's what they're here to do. And then be like, while everyone is losing their shit, like, we'll be back after these messages.
Yeah. And make sure you watch them all.
Yeah, that's right. And of course, and this is what I'm about to say is 1,000% true. When this is happening, the commercials that you buy are like 100 times, more expensive.
Yeah, it's like Super Bowl.
Yeah, what? The aliens came down? Wait, we'll be back after these messages. Toyota. This is the point where people are paying. The corporations are paying the big bucks because everyone is like glued to the TV, right? Because they can't. They have to. And now, there's so many ways to look at this thing and laugh your ass off, because what happens at this moment, we have explained that very many times, right? You are at the moment of rage or fear or whatever it is, what? Jesus is coming back. And at that point, the critical factor has gone bye-bye. He's going to Wendy's to get a couple of burgers. And you are in a deep trance, right? And you are in hypnosis mode, and anything anyone does or says is going to put you into a program reaction mode, is going to push all your buttons, and is going to trigger the hell out of you, and they will laugh all the way to the bank, my brother. So that's what this is all really, really about. And the trolling and all this kind of crap, everyone's like, oh, how dare you, this is wrong. Why is this even allowed? Right? People have lost their minds, quite literally. People have lost their minds. So I don't know what's going to happen a couple of days from now, but I am safe in the woods.
Given that we started talking about empathy, I mean, really the core of what they're playing on, apart from building on the programming that they've always been doing, what they're playing on is the fact that people have not been encouraged to really have empathy. What people are done, like everything has been, difference has been emphasized. And I'm talking about all around the world in all kinds of different situations. The way in which the way that you have these opposing groups, they're all based on the idea that one group of people has no empathy or understanding of the other group of people. And the only time anything ever comes together is when some randomer kind of breaks away and then starts some kind of dialogue which comes from a place of wanting to understand the other side. But it doesn't serve anyone for people to do that. It doesn't serve at the people who are making the money and the people who want control for people to want to actually have empathy with each other. It serves them more to have people at each other's throats and to emphasize the difference, whether it be red or blue, or whether it's Catholic or Protestant or US or China or whatever it might be. It serves all of these people to ensure that there's division and that there isn't this capacity for people to empathize and understand each other. Because as soon as you have that, then suddenly the differences start to melt away, and the kind of division that lots of these people profit from also drops away. And it's not in their interests to have people being empathic towards each other.
That's right. And since we spoke about the election, I was thinking about that the other day. And I'm thinking, if someone goes and says, to to a Biden supporter, I'm going to vote for Trump. The other person's like, oh, how dare you? It's actually very funny to watch, how people completely get possessed by this, rage, and they can't even fathom. And of course, the same thing happens on the other side. What? You're gonna vote for Biden? Are you retarded? So the two arguments here is like, what? Vote for Trump? Are you heartless fucking pig who is a racist and misogynist and am I missing it?
No, I think you probably just keep going. You can have Miriam there. And you
and I forgot Nazi. Now, and then of course, if someone says I'm voting for Biden, the Trump supporter is like, are you a moron? Are you completely out of your mind? How stupid can you be? You know what I mean? So I guess this is like the intellect versus, the apathy, or like the evil, right? Evil versus, stupidity. These are the two faces of this.
Yeah.
So, but I'm thinking to myself, look, these people, both of them, I have to accept in my heart that both, the majority of both of those, sides, they both want the same things. Like, I have never met someone who's a Trump supporter that wants this country to go to hell, that wants, women to be subjugated and people of color to be back into the plantations. I'm sorry, in their mind, they believe that this person is going to go out there and do the best for the country, right? So, and now in a similar fashion, but with different approaches, different recipes, the Biden people want the same thing. So, if all of them want this country to do well, how is it that we can have one segment hating the other? Like, really, literally hating. No. Wait, if this guy gets elected, I will burn down the country, and that's how we're going to make it good. It's going to be awesome. Let's burn it down, because that's going to be much better, for the economy too.
And that's the point. It's the fact that nobody has really learned about empathy and understanding, or how to resolve issues. They just see it as being, it's like a football supporters.
That's right.
It's like the stakes are higher, but it's the same mentality that you'll have on the terraces at a, rivals in a football match, and people lose their shit. People who would be, intelligent lawyers and captains of industry by day, and then you put them into a situation, a sports arena at night, and they're hurling abuse at each other and losing their shit. And that's what this is about. And the interesting thing is that probably once it gets settled and this thing clears, a lot of the people who are very vociferous at the moment, like once there's a result one way or the other, a lot of the people who are very vociferous will kind of just go back to doing what they do. But it's just like as it's built up to this crescendo of the vote, it's like as if that's in the game. The game is on, and that's when we have a right to become primitive and primeval in our behavior. But then we'll go back to being normal people once the actual game is over, and we just want to get on with our lives and be safe and well and hope that everyone around us is okay. But these people, as you said, the media and the people who are behind stoking up the divisions are very clever, because they're gaining from the controversy and they're gaining from the conflict. So why not keep it stoked up?
That's right. They've been doing. I mean, they're really good because they've been doing it for millennia.
Yeah.
Because these are the same groups of people that have been governing and being the power that be. that makes the world go one way or another way. These are the people that declare the wars, and these are the people who say, oh, do you care about your country? Are you a patriot? Well, if you are, would you like to see your wife raped and your kids slaughtered? No, you wouldn't. Of course you wouldn't. Now, go to that other country and fuck them up. Because otherwise, or like, I remember when after 9/11, Bush would come in at some point and, everything was like, nobody would go out and do anything and, partake in the economy. Everything was collapsing, right? People are scared shitless. And so he comes out because, you have to go about your everyday business and go out there and buy things. Otherwise, the terrorists win. Oh, man. Life is so comical, my brother. It is just insanity. I mean, quite literally, it's just insanity.
Look, we've seen it all over the world, the insanity of people and the degrees to which they will go to claim to claim that they're right, and the degrees to which they will go to put the other side down, and they will do very nasty things to them, as we've seen over the years. Just because someone happens to be wearing red or blue or green or whatever color, you're identified as being different, and therefore I hate you just because you're wearing a different color. It may be the color of your skin, or maybe the color of the jersey that you support, or the color of the party that you vote for. But people are insane, and stoked up, as we've talked before, about the way in which that insanity is programmed, and it's programmed on a continuous, insidious basis on a through media, predominantly, and presumably it was through other means before electronic media came into play. People used to do speeches and all that sort of stuff to thousands of people, and messages being sent and by pigeon and all that sort of stuff. But it was enough to still keep people separated. It was probably easier to keep people separated because all the people of a particular ilk or a particular following kind of lived together, and then all the other nasty people lived on the other side, and it was easy to keep them separate and in conflict with each other. Whereas now we're all mixed in together, so you have to use different methods to separate people.
Right. Okay. And I mean, a lot of that stuff is breads and circuses, of course, Yeah. Like, hey, what are you doing on Sunday? I don't know. Hey, why don't you come to the Colosseum? And do you want to see some Christians get fucked up eaten by lions? And as if that wasn't enough of a bonus, you get to eat bread for free. I mean, whoa, how can you pass this opportunity? So it's, what can anyone say? We're talking about programming here, talking about conditioning. It doesn't get any more severe than this. It doesn't. Because the funniest part about this, and the most tragic at the same time, is that there is no resolution to that, because it has been designed to not have a resolution. Because you keep on, it's like having, a huge bonfire, and then you have like a truck that is like one of those diesel trucks, and you keep on pouring diesel in the fire, and at the same time, call the firefighters. So the firefighters like, oh shit, it got huge again, and they do like everything they can to put it out, and then on the other side, the guy's like keeps like smiling, keeps on pouring more gas into it. And of course, that's like a never-ending process, right? So this is because it's supposed to be like that, because that's the name of the game.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how do you show empathy, to this? I mean, since we're talking about the whole political thing over here, the only way that I can exercise my empathetic self is what I said before. It's like I understand that both of these groups really want the same thing. The difference is that they think that the solution will come from, opposing ends. One says, "Oh, Biden's going to do it," the other guy's going to ruin us. And of course, the same exact thing happens on the other side. But no one. This is what most people don't, and it is most people don't really consider, that no one up there is interested in uniting these people, because there is no juice in the union. That's why they say divide and conquer, right? The more you keep the people divided, the more you can laugh all the way to the bank. And that same thing, of course, there's so many nuances to that, right? And I even put myself in the jerk-off category, partially, because I'll give you an example. Because as you know, I always reflect on myself and my own goofiness. The fact that we expect that shit's going to go down, right? Like everything is going to, the world is up in flames. And of course, I would be more susceptible to be like, like I'm doing the thing on whatever, like cruising on Facebook, posting my stuff. And I see this ad about the most powerful flashlight in the world. This is what the military used when they were fighting aliens. And you can have that for $21.97. And there's only 50 available. So
delivered straight to your bunker. Yeah.
That's right. You better act now. Like, what? I can go like that and flash that light and kill someone, blind them instantly? Of course, sign me up. What? I can buy one and get one 50% off? Please. Do you see? I mean, but at least I laugh with my own, insane proclivities, because I understand them. It's therapeutic actually to be able to allow yourself sometimes to act, in such a way. But then being able to reflect is the juice of the matter. This is how you get to learn more and more about yourself, and then the next time you're a little more conscious, you're a little more awake to that kind of proclivity that in the past ended up, blowing up in your face and made it look like an asshole to yourself primarily. And everyone is doing it, but the problem is that most people do it and feel good about it. Like they feel well, I have 300 pounds of rice and 500 pounds of beans in my basement. Because, I gotta be secure. Gotta be safe. You know what I mean? Hey, man, whatever floats your boat. But the understanding here is that what it is that we are after here on this podcast is we're after our own growth. We don't want to live life like hamsters, running in place, spinning on wheels for no reason at all other than feeding the masters of the universe.
Yeah, who are leading us like the bull with the ring on his nose and just leading us along. That's exactly it. So, I mean, to me, while we started off in a different place with empathy, to me, the ability for individual people to show empathy towards each other, whether it's people of different religions, people of different political views, or whatever, that's the essence of bringing this to some kind of closure, to bring it to some kind of reasonable resolution. Because until you bring yourself to a place where you may not understand the other person, But if you try to understand the other person, then at least you're letting down your guard and allowing yourself to be curious, to ask questions, maybe have a beer with someone and find out what it is that they're about, and not try and just impose your particular view on them. I mean, that's where people have to take individual responsibility, and that's what's going to change. That's the level that it's going to change. It's not going to be whichever guy gets voted in, and even if, either or both of them were to keel over and die in the middle of it in the next few years, the next person isn't going to solve it. These issues are only going to be resolved by people on an individual basis and being prepared to listen and show empathy towards others, because we've more to we've got more we've more in common than we have differences when you actually break it down. As you said, both sides of the equation want effectively the same thing. The differences are only the marginal bits at the top, and they're the bits that are being spoken to by these guys and the manipulators in the media. And they're the things that have been shown to be, they have the opportunity to draw interest in learning about the other guy. You find that the differences are actually minuscule and it doesn't really matter.
That's right.
And that's got more chance of bringing people together, taking that approach.
Absolutely. And bringing people together is, and I'm not saying that from a, let's go hug a tree type perspective, although there's nothing wrong with that. I am saying that from the perspective of being able to understand yourself. Because if you told me you're vegan, you're like, what are you, a moron? And then you would be like to me, dude, you're destroying your health. Who's a moron here? And then you would give me, all the facts about, the meat eating process is just destroying my health. And then I would be like, dude, look at you look green. But the idea here is that if I want to become wiser, if I want to become more intelligent, if I want to become more effective with myself, I should be able to step outside of these boundaries, outside of my own limitations. And what are my limitations? They are my programming. What I believe is true is really my programming.
Yeah.
And it's always that case, and of course, if I believe that this is true and you believe that, what you believe is true, then we are facing two kinds of truths here, and they're not at all the same. They're not at all similar. So if I am at all above the intellectual level of an ape, I would want to wonder, hey, how did this guy come to this truth? Well, perhaps I should even, and this is the empathetic part, perhaps I should just look at it and analyze it and see in how many respects I can learn something from it for my own benefit. You see?
Yeah.
And that's really where empathy can, in my opinion, lead to a better, more evolved world. Not necessarily just about the fact that, through empathy, we can all learn to love each other, which is awesome. But, I'm going to bring it down to a very real level. I'll say through empathy, we can really learn so much more about ourselves and help ourselves to evolve, to grow, and become more effective human beings.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I think this is a good way to
finish up.
To end this, right? Let's just say that even if the world's on fire next week, we will still come here and tell you why your mind is trying to kill you. Won't we?
And we'll give you another lesson on how to bring about world peace.
That's right. Look at you. I say Vincent Byrne. Vincent Byrne for president. I'm voting.
Thank you. Thank you.
And then I would be like your perfect opponent too, right? Wouldn't I?
You would, yeah, absolutely.
I'd be like, look at this guy. How can you even go with him? He's just so soft.
He's too nice.
He's too nice. Can't get the job done. I'm out there slaughtering turkeys, man. I care about you. I want to feed you.
Poor gobble gobbles.
I know. I will close with that statement. I wanted to, because I took a very artistic photograph of my first turkey sacrifice. And I wanted to create a meme and put it up on Thanksgiving and say, what are turkeys thankful for? See, that's too insensitive, people.
It's too insensitive, yeah, especially for us vegans.
But this is, think about it, man. A turkey's fate, a turkey's destiny, a turkey's purpose is to become someone's dinner. I mean, holy crap, dude. That actually humbled me, seriously. And as I did the dirty deed of letting that poor dude go hang out with Jesus, I apologized. I really apologized, because I really, truly, I hate to cause pain to any being. It's not because I understand. It's fucked up. It's not a. This is what I'm about. But then thinking that, oh my God, see, that's the reflection that I get. If the turkey's purpose is to be someone's dinner, what am I not seeing about our purpose here? Like, we don't know, right? Isn't our purpose as the slaves? Because I always think that the power that be, the people that supposedly are there for our own good, to guide us into a better future. What if, and when I say what if, I mean absolutely 100%, they are laughing all the way to the bank because they see us as their food, hopefully, metaphorically.
We're their turkeys.
Turkeys. We are the turkeys. So they sacrifice our lives for their own benefit. We abuse time once again.
Yeah.
And if time could get upset, we would be in a lot of trouble, my friend. So I'd say until next week, may the gods protect us from the apocalypse that is coming upon us. Absolutely. I mean, here in the US, I don't know what's going to happen with you guys over there.
Let's be careful out there.
And don't let your mind kill you.
Thanks for listening to Your Mind is Trying to Kill You with Alexandros Megas and Vincent Byrne. If you like our show and want to make sure that you don't miss an episode, then we would love if you would subscribe on Apple Podcasts or on whatever platform you're listening to us on. And you'd be doing us a big favor if you would support us by leaving a review as well. It would also be great if you would take a screenshot of this episode on your smartphone and share it on social media. So join us next Wednesday when we talk more about mind hacking and taking back control of your life. Until then, have a great week.